All right. Well, hello and welcome, everyone. I'm super excited to have you here on our first JumpCloud deep dive. If you are joining us, we completely revamped a little bit more of what we had in the IT hour, where now we're going to be taking one topic discussion element of JumpCloud. We're going to go deeper into how we built it, why we built it, some of the problems that we're seeing, how we're working with our customers, and going into some of those very different elements. My name is Chase. I'll be your host today, and I'm joined by our very own special bear who's going to be covering some of these other elements. And today we have a super exciting topic for you. We are actually going to be talking about asset management. This will be one of our newest releases, and we're going to be covering a lot of ground today. So I'm super excited to go into all those different areas. And then I encourage you to join us for our next session coming up, where we're going to do a deeper dive around conditional access. We have some amazing new features where we'll be covering Chrome conditional access, some of the other MFA options we have coming up, and more to come. And so, with that, I'm going to hand it over to my co host today, and we're going to cover a little bit more about how we're approaching asset management, how we're thinking about it, and a little bit more what our release dates look like. All right, over to you.
Thank you, Chase. Thank you for the introduction. Without further ado, let me share my screen and we can all get started with asset management. So, I think my screen is visible now. Let's
Yep, good
share.
to go.
And yes, so welcome everyone. My name is Barish, and I am the product manager responsible for our SaaS and asset management solutions. And welcome to today's deep dive session on asset management. Let's start with explaining the current state of asset management. So JumpCloud Asset Management is one of our newest functionalities that we are currently in public preview, which is available to all customers within that time period. And public preview is just like uh, open beta, a public beta. And soon next week, by September 17th, we are going to be enabling it generally available for everyone. So it will be keep on available on every other organization. Let's talk about a little bit of like why asset management matters for organizations. Simply, asset management is solving compliance and audit pain while reducing the manual tracking and replacing outdated spreadsheets. So we can have like four pillars here. One of them is more time focus. It's because like asset management solutions reduces manual work for IT. And then you have a centralized overview of your all hardware assets with their ownership and life cycle. Later, then it can help you to support your audits and compliance. And once at for all, it also will be able to assist you on offboarding and then reassignment of those assets that are company managed. So, as usual, the market is crowded. There are a lot of like asset management solutions within the market, but how JumpCloud differentiates? Usually on the third-party asset management solutions, as their focus is just on the asset management side, you would usually require a data migration. So an example to this, most common tools would either ask you to utilize some sort of a connector or build some API integration and or use CSV import to get your entire asset stack into their asset management solution, which is fine, but it's error prone. So it can be dangerous. You might lose some of your data while pushing there. So it might not be fully visible and a clear list for you. But in Jump Cloud Asset Management, we already have the managed devices in JumpCloud. So there are no need of a manual data migration because the data is already there. The devices are already in JumpCloud. So it helps us a lot to automatically sync and keep it automatically updated and everything combined can sit together in JumpCloud. And whenever we have a unmanaged asset, I would say, we would still require like an import or manual addition. But most of the times, like those managed devices are a big chunk, and you wouldn't want to do or require a data migration while it's already available within Jump Cloud and it's like synced always to up to date.
Mhm.
So The success is mainly less manual work, lower costs, and stronger security for asset management solutions. So, what we provide is full asset visibility, where you can track all your IT hardware, whether they're managed or non-managed, and lifecycle tracking, which is like the most common and important use case for an asset management solution to maintain the history for utilizing it to compliance and audits. Efficiency and automation, where we reduce manual work with automating this managed device sync process and the data gathering. And then the last two pieces, cost and warranty tracking to optimize your spending and meeting with the regulations, and security and accountability because JumpCloud also owns the users. And when you combine the users with the devices, you already have the ownership. So you will be able to ensure secure device ownership. So I think it's also a good time to do a little bit of demo of asset management right here on this session. So I'll be
Yeah,
sharing
absolutely.
my screen again, and we can see it live on how it looks and what we can do as of today with the first phase, first version of JumpCloud Asset Management.
Super exciting.
Yep. All right. So, as mentioned, like asset management is currently in preview. It's been in preview for about a month now, and this is one of the newest features that we have built. So, how does it work? What it offered to you? How it can make your day-to-day asset tracking or asset managing life easier? So let's begin with the topic that I have mentioned where JumpCloud differentiates, right? You already have your devices, the managed devices within JumpCloud, like your phones, like the tablets, devices, etc. So whenever you enable asset management, you don't need to do anything because everything will be synced automatically with their types, the models, the serial numbers, the owners, etc. So you will have a full list of managed devices. But you might have some additional assets like the freshly purchased laptops or even accessories that you wanted to track. So for those cases, as we don't have an oversight, we are allowing you to create them individually by utilizing our like creation forms, or we have this functionality of importing assets where we provide you the templates. And once you fill out the template, you can easily import those templates within JumpCloud Asset Management. You select what type of an asset you're importing, and then it's done. Everything can be centralized within JumpCloud Asset Management, whether they are managed or non-managed devices. So the setup is pretty easy, and with by next week, we're also going to be enabling our API. So if you want to build some custom integration through the API, you can even make this like process of adding non-managed devices automatically as well, because our API will be a CRUD API and it will support every other need that you might have with asset management. Let's say you're done with everything. Now it's a day-to-day task, or you're checking weekly that what's going on your devices. So when you go into a asset detail, you're going to be welcomed with a device management card if the device is managed or was managed by JumpCloud previously. It will give you like those bite-sized information about the agent status, how many users were bound to device, whether the system insight's enabled, etc. But additionally, you will have three main sections like asset details, purchase details, and hardware specifications. So out of purchase details, everything you're seeing here will be populated automatically when the device is managed because we already have the agent. Why not utilize the agent and get all these information regarding to the hardware or the serial number, the type, etc. automatically? But the purchase details would require manual editing or addition by like this, or you can utilize again the CSV import, and next week it will be available the API to bulk change those fields. So for the purchase details, I know it can be a little bit of like a downside that requiring to put those information manually, but I will say we are already on top of it and we are thinking of how we can make this more automated in the future. So it's already in like our plans in the roadmap that we are going to be making this more smart and more automated on the purchase details. So you can check these, and also you will have this history. So the history is pretty important for asset management because the life cycle actually lives under history, where you track the ownership, where you track the changes. So our history will provide you uh, changes that are happening on the device and changes that are happening on asset management side. So you can see here that there are like me changing some of the fields, me adding notes that device is still in repair, etc. But if I go down, I'll be able to see that JumpCloud changed status or JumpCloud uh, agent status has been changed, installed to removed. So these information will help you quite a lot to understand whether you wiped the device once someone left the company or the device is deprecated, or you can come in here to filters and you can easily filter by changed owner, and you can track the ownership, and it will give you the ownership of how the owners are changing within asset management. So given all that, everything was fine, but we would require a bit more customization to make this available for our customers. Because we learned that asset management can change organization to organization. There is no like a simple way to cover everything at all. So we have brought the custom fields and customization on existing fields. So
Oh, perfect.
you don't want to track all these statuses. They are not like valid for you. You can easily delete them. It doesn't matter. So you can add your own statuses as well. It's all up to you how you're going to make JumpCloud Asset Management more tailor-made for you. And for the status piece, we also have a little bit of automation to make things easier. So whenever you have a new managed device or you delete a managed device, you can automatically set its status. So you don't need to manually do this. So whenever you enroll a new device to JumpCloud, it will be marked as in use or another status that you pick. Same goes for deleted devices as well. So other than these customizations for default fields, you also have your options to create your own fields to be tracked because maybe these are not enough. Those default fields are not enough for you, but you have more complex use cases that you want to track. You maybe want to track, I don't know, the PO number specifically, or you have like a dedicated manager in your team, then you wanted to be able to assign those managers to those assets so you will know that ownership as well, not just who utilizes those assets. So you can create everything. Let's go with the example of manager. You can make it mandatory or you can keep it optional. You can write a tooltip so your team can also understand what this field is utilized for. And the good part is the field type. So you can select any of these as a field type. It can be a date field, it can be a text field, a select field, a user field, a user group field. So it's all customizable for you. If it's a user field, it will list you the entire JumpCloud users of yours. If it's a select field, you can just add as many options. You can allow multiple selections, etc. And all of your custom fields, as well as any of the default fields, can be utilized as a column. So this means that this can be your spreadsheet, but in a more smarter way. You can have different columns, you can have different custom fields included as columns. It's all up to you. And once you are done with everything, you can utilize those filters. Again, anything can be filterable. You're not only limited with those things because we know that there can be multiple different filtering options that is important for you rather than just the statuses, the types, the owner, etc. And you will be able to get a full export of your asset data, accessory data, etc. easily on this specific page. So this will be your go-to place once you are done with setting up your asset management within JumpCloud. That said, I think I have mostly covered everything that we are providing on this initial version of asset management. So let me switch back to the presentation for a little bit of sneak peek on our roadmap, and then we can move forward with a Q&A. So yes, quickly
Absolutely.
sharing back. All right, I think we are back with the slides now. Yes, so the roadmap. On this session, you might be one of the few people that are seeing this roadmap because we are still in public preview, but we already have plans for this year and next year. We are going to be investing on asset management highly throughout 2026. But yeah, for GA, for next week, 17th of September, we are going to be adding the API support and also saved views for our table. And in Q4, we will be having asset management phase two. So this phase two will have Apple ABM integration, which will utilize the existing integration of JumpCloud for capturing those freshly purchased devices and sync it to asset management. We will have clone assets functionality, a fancy overview dashboard with out-of-the-box insights, AI search capabilities, file upload for you to upload your invoices or etc. Any file type will be supported, and there will be UX improvements, and multiple of them. And within 2026, what you can expect is JSM integration, asset discovery. So asset discovery is going to be one of the biggest things that we will work on in 2026 because we will be doing the discovery based on the managed device, and we will discover the accessories or other connected assets with that specific managed device. So it's an exciting one. Additionally, there will be more granular device data additions and workflows, but all these are for 2026. The main focus is next week and Q4 improvements. And yeah, I think that's quite it on my end. And we can have some
That's
questions, we
awesome.
can have some discussions now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's a lot that you covered that is really important for a lot of different folks. And so I'm going to spend some time just understanding a little bit more of our methodology, kind of how we're thinking about things. And you covered a number of items. When you think about one, I think this is really helpful for a lot of folks just to get out of a spreadsheet that they might be managing, or they're kind of working with finance and say, hey, here's where everything is at. Especially if you're like us and you might have a whole bunch of monitors someplace and you want to understand and track where those different things are. One of the elements that you talked about, and we really spent a lot of time, is around the customization, right? Adding in a bunch of different filters, kind of other
Yes.
pieces, making sure that that adds available. I'm curious from your perspective, why did we spend so much time looking at that customization approach and making sure that we had a lot of options as people are starting to look at this?
Yeah, so I would say the customizable fields and custom fields itself, it can seem like a minor functionality within our asset management solutions, but I would say it's unlocking a massive value and it's allowing customers to adopt our tool and make it unique for themselves and for their specific workflows. So I think this also is becoming one of the most used features within asset management. So we know that we should allow the flexibility and customization because like smaller companies and through the larger companies, they all have different needs, but the same goal of tracking their assets. So to be able to
Mhm.
provide that, it was one of the key additions, I would say, because otherwise you would be similar to another like asset management solution that is in the market, or you would be another spreadsheet. So this customization and those small automations within our fields regarding to the managed devices, it helps quite a lot on, I believe, adopting the functionality and also making it more specific and unique for each company and I think that's pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely. And there are a lot of elements where I think, as you mentioned, there could be different use cases, different changes. You might have a lot of assets or devices that are coming in and out of the organization. So, kind of making sure that you're on top of that. And I think, too, one of the other elements you showcase is just the ability to export all that information as well, right? So, if you are using a spreadsheet, if you have something, either within your own internal flows or communications with your finance department, whatever that might be, to make sure that you kind of have an enriched version almost of kind of truly what your environment looks like and all those different elements. Another piece that we spent a lot of time and kind of walk through a little bit more is the history of different assets,
Yes.
right? Making sure that they're tagged, kind of understanding a little bit more from your perspective. Why was that so important to kind of have within this first version of asset management and really kind of making sure that we are having and tracking that history across those different assets?
Yeah, yeah. I would say it was much easier to decide on rather than the other functionalities because the historical overview wraps into lifecycle tracking, and lifecycle
Hmm.
tracking is really the key use case of having an asset management solution. So you're having an asset management solution to have a clean list of your assets so it can help you in any ways, but also you need to be able to know the ownership changes or what's going on with the certain assets, like whether they're being deprecated, their warranties getting outdated, etc. All these changes you also need to be tracking. And spreadsheets are not good for that. So you cannot input all these historical changes in a spreadsheet. So I would say that was more of a easy call that it needs to be within the version one for us to be able to provide the value of an asset management solution within day one.
Yeah. And there is, and then two, I really appreciate you kind of showcasing a little bit more of the roadmap and kind of where we're taking this. There's an iteration of this, and there's going to continue to add more and more pieces. And I know you touched on certain elements, like, for example, the costs, right? Making sure that we can have what we paid for it, kind of what does this look like, how all those different elements that might be a little bit more manual to start. And I think for a lot of organizations, they're probably purchasing similar like models right across the fleet. Say, hey, we're going to go with this model and we're going to have 50 of them, 100 of them, 1,000 of them, whatever that might be. So it'll probably help to provide a little bit more of a default value. And then I think in the future, I think as you alluded to, we'll kind of have some file imports and other pieces that will help streamline some of those different pieces. One of the features that I'm personally excited about, especially too for folks who are listening in, we just launched our JumpCloud search that's now GA across it. So I'd encourage you to go in and play with it. And so the ability to kind of surface those different insights through AI search and kind of understanding a little bit more about their environment, I think will be really crucial. But of all the other elements that you see forecasted and are working on across the teams, what are some of the features that you're really excited to bring in as we start to approach more features on the roadmap?
Yeah, absolutely. So one key thing is actually a quite small, but we have received that feedback, I would say, a lot of times during this 1 month of period, which is file upload. We know that it was
Mm,
going to be coming that often because usually you wanted to be able to track your invoices within those records to be able to have like support your financial audits or finance team alongside with your own IT team. So that is one of the most excited ones and a simple addition to asset management, but also the ABM integration. Because ABM integration will streamline the asset management more and make things more
mhm,
automated. So if a customer, an organization is utilizing ABM, they would know that once you purchase like a bulk number of devices or single one, etc., you're receiving an email about, hey, congratulations on your new laptop purchase, etc. So today, you would need to, once you get that email, you would need to go into JumpCloud Asset Management and add that asset manually because it's not yet managed by JumpCloud, so it's not going to be automatically populated. But with the ABM integration, we are going to be providing a more automated way into those not managed ABM registered assets. So we will be able to automatically sync them. And once they are managed, we are going to be keeping the same record and we will just add historical changes on the history. So all the automations that we will build on top of the existing functionality is quite exciting for me because I think streamlining the asset management and IT teams' workflows is crucial. And if we can streamline it with more automations, more smarter in a more smarter way, it's also going to be really helpful for our customers.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the key pieces, at least in my mind, and I'd love to hear your thoughts too, is the ability to kind of have this live within our APIs. So not only is it kind of within the spreadsheet, you can kind of get it in, JumpCloud and out, but for a lot of folks that want to operate or kind of update this dynamically or say, hey, now we have this information, what we would like to do with it? Are there other alerts or other pieces that we can have in? So I think that will be a wonderful addition where we can start to showcase a little bit more of that detail and then start to incorporate a bunch of different automations, a bunch of different workflows. And I'd love to hear from folks kind of as they start to experiment and play with it, kind of what are some of those different use cases. But you also mentioned too, and I wanted to highlight a little bit more in terms of, almost how we showcase or kind of come to market with these different feature sets, especially ones that are larger like asset management, where we will typically start within a private preview. So for a lot of folks who's really interested, hey, I'd like to be with this early on and work directly with you and the product team, the engineering team to kind of help uncover different areas, pain points, use cases, great to haves, nice to haves, all those within. And then we move into this notion of a public preview, right? Where more and more organizations are taking part of it. The features become more and more stable, all these different elements. And then we move into GA where it's available, you can play with it, kind of have that within your environment. But within that, we've worked with a number of customers in terms of feedback, kind of other pieces. So I'd love to hear from you, both in terms of the scale of number of customers that we worked with as we developed these different preview options. And then I'd also love your insights on, kind of what were some of the pieces of customer feedback that you got that were surprising to the team or kind of reinforce your thinking around how we're building this.
Yeah, exactly. So those previews are really valuable, and I highly appreciate anyone who is participating in any of those previews, not just asset management, but any of those that we're like doing within JumpCloud. So just as you said, Chase, like everything actually starts with an idea, but it shapes into a better place and becomes an actual product with the help of those customer feedback that you receive. Because at the end of the
Mhm.
day, you're building something for other organizations to use, and you need to be taken into consideration that how they're approaching those ideas, what is important for them, what problems they are trying to solve with that actual idea. So that helps a lot. And let me give a little bit of insight on this. With asset management, we were expecting to go to private preview with around 50 customers, but we ended up with 150 because the like hype was quite uh, a lot, I would say. And with the public preview, not even GA, not even like it's available like officially, I would say it's still in preview. We have around, I guess, like 1.5 thousand organizations enabled and utilizing asset management. They're enjoying playing with it. They are providing new feedback on a daily basis. So those previews are helping a lot, just as you said. So I'm happy that we're doing those. And I would love anyone to know that if you are part of a preview, it's highly appreciated from product and engineering teams.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I don't there's a few different organizations that I think do this and do this well, but I encourage anyone that's hopping in or kind of working within our teams. It's a great way to shape a little bit more about what the features are going to be within JumpCloud and kind of help you make sure that it matches within your organization and some of those different pieces. And with that too, my next question is we try to solve a number of different elements, especially across different sizes and types of organizations. We're really fortunate where we have customers across the globe, but also a bunch of different industries where people might be leveraging assets in a bunch of different ways. And so I would love from your perspective, kind of as you're thinking about approaching this, designing this, what went through your mind and kind of the team's mind in terms of how we were designing this for different types of organizations, right? And maybe that was coming through within just making sure that we have a lot of custom fields or other elements. But how did you think about covering different types of use cases as you're working through those customers, or 150 customers at that, across the different previews that we had?
Yeah. Mainly, I would say how they're approaching to the solution is quite different, just as you mentioned, Chase, because we have we like worked on this and we designed this, I would say, around progressive complexity, where we kept
Hmm.
things lightweight for smaller organizations or the organizations that doesn't care about all those flexibility and such. But in the meantime, allowed a little bit of advanced customization or the API support for giving this opportunity for larger customers for making it more complex for their use cases. So this helped a lot because for some organizations, even the default fields are enough. Just to be able to track their managed devices automatically and not requiring to do manual spreadsheets is enough. And they're quite happy with it. And our solution provides that. And it's not like it's the only part that is supported. But at the end of the day,
Hmm.
if there is a larger uh, organization that looks for different ways of tracking, just as an example, we had one customer from health sector, and they were
Hmm.
looking to track lab equipment within asset management. And just because we are allowing to create custom types, they were able to create a type for each of their lab equipment. And they created their assets manually under accessories or used the import functionality. And they were able to then track their lab equipment. So it's not limiting you and it's allowing you to make it more uh, complex and automated if you really want to, especially with the API coming in a couple of days. Then if
Hmm.
you're a tech-savvy person, there will simply be no limits. You can build your own integrations through the API. You can push data into asset management. You can build automations that whenever you purchase a Dell device, you can automatically create an asset management through an API, etc. So it's flexible, and I like that flexibility a lot because if you're looking for a simpler solution, still our solution is pretty simple to use. You don't need to be tech savvy or you don't need to know anything. Or if you're looking to do more and more, it's also available for you as well. So I think like that way of like designing around a little bit of progressive complexity is helping quite significantly with those gaps.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to put it too. And that's a really good example of kind of how you think about, going beyond just traditional notion of assets, right? Is it a device? Is it, my monitor, mouse, whatever that might be? But really looking into kind of all assets in an organization, kind of what is sizable, what is, has a financial impact that you want to manage and monitor and understand. And I think too, kind of have a little bit more ownership and perhaps like a strategic direction around kind of where you can redefine how you think about different assets within the organization and look at those different pieces. And that brings me into my next question, which is I think for a lot of folks you mentioned, and a lot of customers that I talk to as well, like just get me out of a spreadsheet, right? It's something else I don't want to manage. I want to make sure that, I'm already using JumpCloud for my centralized view of who's doing what across what device, and that helps fit within that view where you have a much more comprehensive understanding of what the user is interacting with, kind of where they might be, and all the different pieces of equipment that someone might be interacting with, and which again becomes really important in terms of understanding the history, especially if you're going through a couple different refresh cycles and say, it's been through a lot, like maybe it's time to retire that device. But as we start to wrap up our session, kind of other pieces, the last question that I have for you and kind of folks listening in is what would be your recommendation of kind of just the best way to start and kind of exploring asset management and truly getting to play with it?
Yeah. I would say if even with like couple left in our public preview until 16th to 17th, I would say go into your admin portal and enable it. It doesn't cost you anything at this point until we go GA, and then we will be kickstarting the 30-day trials. So go on, enable it, and you will see that your managed devices will populate instantaneously, and you will be able to see many of the features that I have explained by default without even touching another button or anything, just by enabling it. And once you enable it, I would highly recommend to play around, especially with the fields. So add a couple of warranty dates. Try to change the
Mhm.
statuses. See if it's going to work for your organization. And if it's not, look for customization options. If you can make it work for your organization, etc. And ultimately, please email me with your feedback. So I will be highly appreciated, and I will be so happy to get your ideas and opinions.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for that. And I really appreciate you diving into all these different elements in terms of how we think about what that looks like and making sure that people can start to play with it. We actually had one question just come pop through, and it's around the Apple MDM devices and populated assets before the public launch. And so, and I believe the way that, and please correct me, right? And so we'll have kind of all your existing Apple devices through MDM coming in, but then we will have the dedicated integration with ABM coming in a little bit.
Yeah, so let's do it this way because I think it will be easier to answer this call. And thanks, Shane, for asking this. Quickly just resharing my screen here. All right, so as of today, you have your Apple MDM configuration and such, and whatever you're seeing in devices as of today will always be automatically synced up to asset management without touching a single button. So we have this instantaneous sync, so you don't need to worry about whenever there's a new device or you deleted a device, everything will be represented here. What this ABM integration will bring is that you have your ABM registered devices that are not yet enrolled in JumpCloud. We will be able to capture that information and utilize that as well. So you may say it will help you to have your non-managed Apple assets in asset management as well, while you already have your managed ones. Hope this was helpful.
All right, perfect. Well, thank you everyone for diving in. This concludes, I'd say, our first edition of the Jump Cloud Deep Dive as we start to go through all these different elements. Thank you, Barish, for hopping in and spending some time with us, going a little bit deeper into what asset management is, kind of how we were thinking about it, the different use cases that we've had, especially talking through a bunch of different customers. Again, feedback is crucial for us in terms of how we drive our product roadmap, how we implement features like this, and I'm looking forward to it. And so, on our next edition of the deep dive coming up, we are going to be talking about conditional access policies, some new additions that we have, leveraging Chrome, some additional MFA options, and really starting to understand how you can start to set that structure within your organization. And so, we're really looking forward to having you join us on the next Jump Cloud deep dive. And until then, have a great time, and we'll see you on the next one.
Thank you, everyone, and have a nice rest of your Friday and weekend ahead.